Did you get denied your safety school because you were locked up in juvie for hunting? Why don't you consider WIH, the Winchester Institute of Hunting, featuring such classes as forensic accounting,
aliases,
credit card fraud,
and basic hacking.
And sign up early and you can get a discount on Professor Dean's night school.
Fistfights and firearms, making the mark work for you.
Let's do this.
Welcome to this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast. I'm Diana.
And I'm Liz.
And we're going to talk Season 10, Episode 20, Angel Heart.
Indeed. But first, this is the part where we talk about ourselves.
Yeah.
How have you been?
I'm good now. I feel like, what have I done? Oh, I spent time with my family. I saw a local artist named Mitchell Ferguson who was really fun. And then I saw some other really interesting, talented bands that are not my jam and worked. That's what I got. Ta-da!
That sounds exciting.
Yeah. What have you been up to?
Hurting myself. No.
Yeah.
No, I've just been, there's been a lot of working out, and I went to aerial yoga at the studio on Saturday, and that was much more aerial than it was yoga. And then got convinced to go join them for a class on Monday, which was both Lyra, which is the big metal hoop, and silks, which is the hammock, which is what you do like in aerial yoga, which is like the big thing that you can cocoon in. But I have always avoided the fabrics because I don't think it's right that they hurt as much as they do. Because at least like the metal hoop, it's a big metal hoop and it's supposed to hurt. I know my brain is like, I'm going to sit on this and it's going to suck. Yeah. But fabric is nice and it's soft, and right now
caressing your skin. No.
Yeah. And but silks was a lot of fun. It's basically self bondage, and I tied myself upside down with my feet and kept hanging. I hung upside down by my butt and did a bunch of different poses in it, and yeah, so it's really pretty. And now I have a giant ring of bruises around my hips, and I realize that I put my hands on my hips a lot. That is a thing I do, is I just stand around and
with your hands on your hips.
Yeah, so
where your bruises are.
Now maybe I can at least learn to put my hands someplace else and stop looking like a bossy pants. So yeah, that's all I've that's all I've been doing is I've just been hanging upside down by my foot. So, but that's been fun. And this weekend is the Psychic Fest, the San Antonio one that Curious Twins puts on, but it's so hot. Like, we're just having like the worst fucking heat wave. I don't want to be outside for 2 days.
Yeah, it was like abnormally cool for
it was
a couple weeks
nice.
ago,
and I had to be outside and be like,
a ton of rain, and then now it's gonna be hot as fuck. Like, we're gonna break 100.
Yeah, it was too nice. It got too nice. It was too pleasant, and now we have to pay for those like 3 days where it was just nice in Texas, but now we have to pay.
But I mean, it's almost pool season. So
it is. It is almost pool season. My pool doesn't have any snakes in it right now, so it's ready to go.
That's a good thing. Right now.
Yeah, I checked this morning and there weren't any there. So
snake free as of 9 a.m.
I think that's a good watch I would like to have instead of like zero incidents, like zero snake sightings.
Snake free. Oh goodness. Well, right. We are getting to the end of this season.
We are. It's approaching. And, there's some things that I like about this season, and there's some things I don't. So first thing I hate about this. No, this is what we're talking about. So this episode title is Angel Heart, right?
Yeah.
And Supernatural Wiki thinks that the title of this episode is because it's likely based on the 1987 noir film Angel Heart. And that movie is considered a cult classic. And this is about an angel who has a heart, but it's pretty opposite the movie's plot. And like, do you remember that movie? Okay, I know it came out before you were born, probably, but close though. But it was very dark and not something that everybody has seen. So let's discuss the movie's plot and maybe some of the scandal that was associated with it, and then we can circle back at the end of our episode and see if this should have been named Angel Heart. What?
Is this our lore?
This is our lore, yeah. So Angel Heart. It is based on the novel Falling Angel by the author William Hjortsberg. I don't know if that's how you say its name, but it's spelled with an HJ, so I want to say it's Hjortsberg, and I'm going to stick to it. Several changes, though, were made to his book, including adding New Orleans as a location, and that makes the plot the following. Spoiler alert for a movie that was made in 1987. So if you want to watch this, skip ahead, maybe.
Sure.
So the movie starts off in New York in the 1950s when a private detective named Harold Angel, played by the original face of Mickey Rourke, and it's very strange to watch getting his face smashed in and all the other things that happened to it, Mickey Rourke. And so he is called to Harlem for a meeting with a client named Louis Cypher, played by Dustin Hoffman. And Dustin Hoffman / Cypher wants him to find this singer named Johnny Favorite. He was a crooner. Remember, this is the 50s. So in the 40s, there was this crooner and he was really famous. His name was Johnny Favorite. And Cypher wants him to find him because this guy, Johnny, owed him a debt and it was tied to a contract. But unfortunately, before he paid him back, he got in a wartime accident and had amnesia. Cypher thought that Johnny was in a hospital for the last decade, but now he thinks the hospital is being fishy and he wants Angel to investigate. So Angel goes to the hospital Johnny Favorite was supposed to be at and is told Johnny was sent to another hospital. Not believing that, Angel goes to the main doctor's house and then figures out that this doctor is addicted to morphine. And then in order to get the doctor to say what he wants, he locks the doctor in the house away from his drugs and says that he'll come back so he can learn like what he needs to know. But so he locks him in there and then he comes back and the doctor is dead and he has been shot in the eye. And he's like, well, clearly it's a suicide because the door was locked, right? So Angel then learns that Johnny was engaged to a woman named Margaret, also known as the Witch of Wellesley, and he had another woman on the side named Evangeline Proudfoot who ran a spooky store in Harlem. And somebody please give me a time machine to go to a 1950s Harlem occult store because I bet that was really awesome and I want to see what they were selling. So in addition to that, he also hung out with a woman named Madame Zora, that's just fancy, right? So he goes down to Coney Island, and in Coney Island, he finds a woman in the ocean, and that woman tells him that Madame Zora is Margaret, you dumbass. So Angel then ends up going to New Orleans, and he follows a woman to her apartment, and it is Margaret. And Margaret knew his name when he rang her bell, and we found out that he had made an appointment for a horoscope or a palm reading, and he starts giving out dates and stuff, but she throws him out when he starts asking about Johnny. Then Johnny goes out into a rural community where he finds Evangeline's grave, and a girl comes up with a toddler. He approaches her, finds out that she is Evangeline's daughter named Epiphany, and Epiphany is played by a 19-year-old Lisa Bonet. Now, she says she doesn't know anything about Johnny Favorite or anything like that. So Angel goes off. He meets a musician named Toots Sweet. Toots, but Toots Sweet. Yep. And in a jazz bar, and he points him back to Margaret. And there's a thing with a chicken foot, and then he follows him out to the countryside where he sees a voodoo ritual that was led by Epiphany, who dances with the chicken, then cuts its throat and dances as the blood falls all over her. Later, Angel confronts Toots at his place. Toots tells him that Epiphany is a priestess like her mother was, and she's been a priestess since she was 13. And I'm just like, we told Wednesday College first. So the next day, Toots is found murdered in a very horrific way. Someone cut off his dick and shoved it down his throat, and he choked to death on it. So pretty bad. Then Angel finds that Margaret is also dead, and her heart's been cut out. Angel then gets beat up by Margaret's father, goons, and a dog. Then Epiphany shows up at his hotel room, and then she tells him she doesn't know who the father of her kid is when she asks that she got impregnated during a ritual. And she tells him that she's 17, and then they have sex. This is Mickey Rourke, who was like 35, and she was 17. And she really knew Bonet was 19, but still, okay. And then, like, as they're doing it, like, this hotel room had all these, like, water leaks in it, but then the water leaks start turning to blood. So then as they're doing it, blood is just, like, raining down on them. And then, like, she's screaming a lot, and he's just, like, his butt's there. And so, anyhow. So.
Sounds distressing.
Yeah, this is what they named this episode. All right, so then the cops are getting a little suspicious of this New York dick that's surrounded by all these corpses. Like, dude, you showed up and now all these people are really horribly dead. This is very sus.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very sus.
Very sus. So Angel goes and finds Margaret's father, Ethan, who informs him that not only was Johnny a singer, but he was really into the dark arts and he sold his soul for fame and profit. Then to try and outsmart the devil, Johnny kidnapped a soldier who could pass for him around the same age, kind of looked the same, and then he ate his heart and stole his identity. But before everything was solidified, he got drafted and then got amnesia during the war. Ethan tells him that he and Margaret got Johnny out of the hospital, but abandoned him in Times Square, New Year's Eve, 1943. Now, this whole time, Angel has been having all these flashbacks about, like, New York in the 40s and, like, New Year's Eve and, like, weird women really playing and stuff. So as he's telling him this stuff, and, like, Johnny just starts vomiting in the bathroom, and then he comes out and he finds Ethan is drowned in this giant cauldron of gumbo, and this cauldron is, like, as big as I am tall, which I know is not very tall, but it is still, like, huge. And it was a giant cauldron, and I wanted
a lot of gumbo.
So much gumbo, and I have so many questions about this. Like, how do you get the leftovers out? Like, how do you clean it? Like, how does it dry? Like, how do you keep it from rusting? How do you season it? Like, does it get passed down? Because I want the giant cauldron, and I do. So I need to know the answers to these things. So at Margaret's, Angel finds dog tags with the name Harold Angel on them and realizes that he was Johnny all along. The ritual worked, and he had amnesia. He was the soldier that got put inside him, right? So kind of like an angel going inside him, right? So then Louis Cypher shows up and realizes, hey, that's a homophone for Lucifer, you moron. Louis Cypher, Lucifer, right? Then he tells Angel, yep, you killed all those people. That was you who was doing that killing. Also, Johnny Favorite was Epiphany's father, and that means you are her father and you just had sex with her.
Ew.
Then he goes back and he finds Epiphany is dead. And she's dead because she's been shot up her vagina with a gun. With his gun, in fact. It's very, very awful. And she is wearing Angel's dog tags. The police show up and tell him he is going to burn him for what he did. And Angel says, yeah, in hell. And then the toddler, her kid, is like, the police bring him into the room. And then the toddler's eyes start glowing, just like Lucifer's eyes did earlier in the movie. So now we know that Lucifer is the child's father. And then it goes to the credits. So it just shows, like, Angel, like, going down in an elevator. All right. So that's the plot.
What the fuck?
Right. So
it's quite a cast.
It is quite a cast. And one thing that happened during this is when the feud between Robert De Niro and Mickey Rourke started, supposedly over their approaches to acting. Recently, Rourke said, he doesn't forget what happened 20 years ago. They have a saying, I took him to school, before no other actor had taken him to school. So he still has Mickey Rourke still has beef with De Niro, which I think is funny. Okay. But the main scandal was whether or not this movie was obscene and how dare Denise Cosby be in an X-rated film. So Back during this time, this was 1987, Bill Cosby was not publicly known to be a gross, disgusting man doing all the things he's been convicted of doing. The Cosby Show was one of the biggest television shows at the time, and Cosby was known kind of for controlling his television family's lives and what they could do because
he wanted to keep the perspective for marketing reasons.
Yeah,
he wanted the Cosbys to be the fucking Cosbys.
Yeah, and he was just a controlling, So, but Lisa Bonet asked his permission to be in the movie, and so when she first approached him with it, she said, "I wasn't really concerned." She told us to the Oklahoman, but a lot of people who worked around Cosby were concerned that he wouldn't be happy with it. I walked in there and said, "I've been offered this part, and I'd like to do it. I must tell you that it's got a bit of nudity, and it's going to be very controversial, and I'd like to do it, and what do you think?" And he said exactly this: "Lisa, this is called The Cosby Show, and I know how this business works. I know that you kids can be erased just like that. I've been in this business long enough to know that, and there's no reason why you shouldn't be working, and get out of my dressing room." And then, so he basically gave her like blessing and permission to do this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then as the movie was set to come out, the press started getting there was a whole bunch of controversy about her sex scenes and that you could see her boobs throughout the movie. And she kept wearing like all these see-through shirts. And I really wish this came from a place of concern about exploiting a teenage girl, but this was the 1980s. So it was mainly slut shaming Lisa Bonet. And she told Interview magazine, "I didn't care what anyone around the set felt, because people were going to see me on screen and judge me anyway. So fuck everyone else and go to town. I felt confident, that's all." The director, Alan Parker, said Bonet was more relaxed than Mickey Rourke during the sex scene and just everybody else in the room. And everyone else was just kind of uncomfortable. Maybe some of them just realized this should be uncomfortable. Hopefully some of them. But also, there was also the fact that she was Denise Cosby. And she said, "I was not concerned with how Denise was going to feel, nor was I going to destroy her reputation. Instead, I felt obligated to my career and my freedom of artistic choice." The director, Alan Parker, said to LA Times, "Is just easy journalism. That she's on The Cosby Show is not relevant to the movie. It is relevant to journalism. I didn't hire her because of The Cosby Show. I have never even seen the show. I hired her because she was right for the role." So things, though, did escalate when the MPAA, Motion Pictures Association, gave the movie an X rating, claiming that the blood during the sex scene made it too violent, and TriStar Pictures refused to release it. Director Alan Parker filed an appeal, and he reluctantly agreed to cut about 10 seconds of the movie when you could see, quote, Mickey Rourke's backside pumping up and down, and the film was given an R rating and release. Parker later stated that their concerns led to a wasteful, pointless, and expensive exercise. Bonet also defended the film's sexuality, saying it wasn't any worse than Blue Velvet or 9.5 Weeks, but when asked whether she agreed with Spike Lee's assessment that the censors do not know how to handle black sexuality, Bonet replied, "They say it was the blood, but it's a pretty erotic scene. But of course, I wasn't screwing someone who was black either." So there was also the interracial aspect of it. And then this was another, it was kind of, beyond just a general exploitation of her as a teenage girl, to the idea of, we are casting another black woman as a voodoo priestess who's getting covered in blood, sleeps with the older white man, and then is murdered. It's a trope that, but to have that being recognized in 1987 is pretty far ahead. Like, a lot of people weren't even thinking about that. But so I think also it should be noted at this time, Bonet had been rebelling in other ways, and I just thought she was the coolest. She posed nude for Interview magazine. She posed half naked for the Rolling Stones Hot issue, and allegedly she wanted even more of an exposed photo for the cover. And they're like, we're not going to show that much. So, but on the Letterman show, when asked, and also I think this is the same episode where she did put 32 grapes in her mouth. That is on YouTube. I watched it this week. It's quite impressive and also distressing. Yeah. So she said that she was, because at this point she was leaving the Cosby Show and she was going to do A Different World. And she said, "They told me to. It's not very original. It's about kids in college." So she did say some things out, and she said she was concerned with how people saw her age. I think before you become a certain age, you are constantly being questioned because adults assume you have no intelligence, no direction in life, she said. Obviously, that's not right, since Emilio Estevez, 24, can write, star, direct, and produce his own movies and then stick his fiancée in a film. And I can really hear her saying that. Not just because I watched her episode of Donahue with River Phoenix and Raul Julia and the guy who wrote the vegetarian book. That was some 80s shit. And it was like one of the first times that celebrities were like sitting on their platforms and it's so like watching the platforms they were speaking on with today's, it's so fun. I highly ever go watch Lisa Bonet on the Donahue show, and everyone got a kick out of that. All right. So then she eloped with Lenny Kravitz, got pregnant, and then got kicked off. It's a different world. She would eventually go back to the Cosby Show with her adopted stepdaughter, which I believe was the introduction of Raven Simone, and with appearances through 6 and 7. And then she had a permanent exit from the Cosby Show. And then went on to fuck Jason Momoa. So Angel Heart failed even to recoup its $18 million budget at the box office. The film debuted at number 4 at the weekend box office, garnering ticket sales of $3,688,721 from 850 screens, with an average of $4,526 per theater. That is 1987 money. I did not do the conversion. The film's overall domestic gross was $17.2 million. They did, when they released it on video, they did put the 10 seconds back in. And when you watch it you can watch it on all the streaming stuff.
It's
there.
Everywhere. Okay,
it's streaming, and you can see Mickey Rourke's butt. But it's
young Mickey Rourke's butt, to be clear.
It's young Mickey Rourke. It's, this is a cult classic. The noir elements and the cinematography of it is spectacular. There's so many good scenes, but it's obviously super problematic. I tried to read the book, and I got through like the 5th chapter. I just it was too noir for me. It was just, yeah. And it also was I was like, after just having seen the movie, I was like, I can't do this again. It was like,
traumatizing.
I don't want to watch this again. I don't want to know about this again. So that is the very disturbing movie, Night Angel Heart, that this episode was based off of.
That's fine.
So let's talk about the episode, and in the end we'll come back and we'll just say like, was that okay?
Is that what happened? Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll go through this. So this was episode 20. It first aired April 29th, 2015. It was directed by Steve Boyum, who we haven't seen since season 8, episode 16, Remember the Titans, and written by Robbie Thompson, who we obviously have seen a lot this season. And we open to a very clean, non-cluttered living room. And I think I'm just very jealous of, like, it's so clean.
It's very sparse and bright white.
It's very sparse, very white. The pillows are very symmetrically organized. There's nothing on the floor. There's no boxes. There's no cat hair.
Well, we see
and happiness or cat hair.
Well, you can't see the cat hair if it's there.
Yeah.
We see a man at the door, and it is entering, and he called for Amelia. It is Jimmy Novak. So Jimmy Novak coming home to his wife is what we have. And he says to her, Castiel is gone. And he asks about Claire, and they're hugging. But then Amelia starts bleeding from her arm and crying and saying, not again. This is distressing. This went from very confusing and sweet to distressing.
Yeah.
And she wakes up chained to a dirty bed in a barn, with a dude cutting her and breathing in her blue essence.
Her soul, who's doing a soul bump.
Bumps.
This is a soul bump. Yeah, he was doing her like a line of cocaine. And so later they say that he's eating her, but I don't know. So the dream begins again, and she's just in a loop. And the loop is Cassidy has abandoned his vessel and he's come home. And it's not fucked up at all. Nope.
Oh, no, it's so distressing. Yeah. So we cut to Tulsa, Oklahoma, outside of Lucky Star Steam and Massage, which happens to be next door to Susie's bar. And Lucky Star just has a really cool sign. So
it did have a really cool sign, but I don't think we're the type of clientele who go in there.
No.
So no. And then inside the bar is a young lady.
Very young, because it's Claire. Claire is at the bar, and the bartender does not believe her when she says her birthday is tomorrow, but she definitely takes the $50 to point Claire in the direction of the regular Ronnie Cartwright.
You still can't pay in a bar. So, yeah, it's so illegal. And so
it's Tulsa.
But it is Tulsa. And in this bar next to the Steven Massage, I don't think that
I will say, Tulsa is actually a cooler city than it gets credit for. It's actually a pretty fun city, but
the Steven Massage area of Tulsa
is probably not going to have a bar that a minor can enter. Correct.
So he is not happy to see her.
No, he's drinking a beer, and she wants her help. She wants his help tracking down her mom, Amelia. And he's like, she shows a photo, and he's like, I've never seen her. And Claire's insisting, like, look, she's been missing for years, and her diary said that she was going to meet up with you, and you were going to take her to a miracle worker. So what? And he's like, I don't know her. I don't know what a miracle worker is. I never want to see you again. Bye. And he leaves. So she follows him because, kids. And she's insisting that he was the last person to talk to her mom and wants his help. And he slips and says, I don't know. I never knew Amelia Novak, but Claire had not said the last name. Oops. And so he is busted. And as he tries to run, she grabs him and he shoves her, and she hits her head on the dumpster and gets knocked out.
And he at least checks her pulse and calls 911.
Yeah, I mean, so
at least he didn't just leave her there, I guess. Okay. And we have apparently, yes, you can tell this is Tulsa, though, by the flowering trees and the pine tree. It was as we cut to the next scene outside the Tulsa hospital. And this is actually outside Vancouver Community College.
That makes way more sense.
Yeah. But,
Tulsa's not lush, necessarily.
The Tulsa pine trees.
Oh, yeah. So Cass is standing outside the hospital, and Sam and Dean arrive, and Dean's like, should I even be here? We're not on the best terms, me and Claire. And Cass is like, look, I wanted you guys to come with me because you were troubled teens, and I need your help talking to this troubled teen that doesn't want to talk to me.
I need your troubled teen language. And Cass has not been able to go inside because he was awaiting backup. And Dean is ready for 3 Men and a Little Lady, which I think would have been a much better title than Angel Heart, but I'm just saying that. So anyhow, we go from that to Claire's room. And Claire's thrilled to see everybody, but especially Dean.
Oh, yeah. And he was expecting it, not shocked. And so Castiel's all just worried. He's like, well, first off, apparently his number is her emergency contact in her cell phone, which is cute. But Cass is like, oh, why were you in a bar? And Sam's like, hold on. Why were you in the alley outside the bar? That's the way bigger question here. And he's doing a good job of trying to. Sam does a really nice job. He's being starting, a good cop. Connecting with Claire. Yeah. And he's like, and she's like, just wrong place, wrong time. And they're like, fine. Well, we're not going to leave till you talk. So come on. And she finally says that she was looking for her mom, and she went there and she found this dude, and I want to find my mom because I need to tell her off for ruining my life by leaving. That's the most important thing. She's
really pissed off because both her parents left her, and she's the only one around because Jimmy is up in heaven having it all easy. Mm-hmm. And Sam, though, just jumps in on the missing persons case, right?
Yeah, when was the last time anybody heard from her? And she's like, look, I've got this really convenient handy-dandy postcard from a motel in Tulsa. And I'm just kind of funny. It's not the most common of things. But either way, that was 2 years ago. It's been nothing since then. And it was Curtis's motor court. And then she tells him about Ronnie and how she found Ronnie. And it's because apparently Amelia was looking for miracles and looking for Castiel / Jimmy.
Yep.
It's very sad and sweet.
So then outside the room, the three amigos discuss this. And Dean thinks it may be a case, and he really just wants to punch something already, which is just concerning to everybody.
It is. But then in the meantime, while they're having this conversation, Claire takes the opportunity to escape the hospital.
Like you do.
Because. So Sam is going to go to the motel where she probably is. And Dean and Cass are going to go to the bar to look for Ronnie or her or whatever they can find. On the way to the bar, Dean tells Cass, like, hey, you know, I get what you're doing to help Claire is really good and all, but where do you see this ending? You're not her dad. You're just a reminder of someone who's gone, which is true and sad and hurtful, but also kind of shitty.
And also projecting, because really what Dean is trying to tell Cass is that Claire is better when she's on her own and she's stronger, because Dean wants to be on his own. And so he's projecting this all onto Claire Bear, and that has nothing to do with the situation. Yes, I think there should, concerns about like coming in and out of a teenager's life. That is not a healthy thing to be doing. And if you're going to be in her life, Cass, you should probably stay in her life and not just keep bouncing in and out. But also, Dean, stop fucking projecting, and you're very broody. Stop brooding.
Yeah, he's not the most he's not who I go to for like emotional and life advice. Just
not right now. And so, we go back to Susie's bar.
Mm-hmm. And we've got Castiel and Dean enter with their FBI badges, and they find Ronnie quickly, and Dean immediately accosts him in his booth, asking about attacking a teen, and Ronnie responds with, "That bitch attacked me," and promptly gets his face slammed into the table. Kind of fair.
Yeah, I'm like, you kind of asked for that one.
And so, but Dean starts asking about Amelia also. And Ronnie's like, no, he looks scared. He looks confused and gets his face slammed into the table again. And finally, Ronnie agrees to talk. And Castiel's kind of like looking real nervous because Dean's getting fucking loud and beating kind of like, this guy's clearly a regular and is getting his face like smooshed on the table pretty badly.
How is nobody else in the bar like noticing that nobody cared? Like, it's
a bar in Oklahoma.
I think that also says a lot about Ronnie, that his head gets slammed into the table and nobody cares.
Yeah, no one cares. And so finally he's like, she was the last one, and that I worked for a faith healer named Peter Holloway. And Ronnie used to be blind, but Peter cured him, gave him his sight back, and in payment, he had to go find young lost candidates that wouldn't be missed. Some would be healed, and some others just looked like he's like, I don't know. I saw one time they were tied up. He was cutting on them, and then I quit.
Soul lines, and he was just doing soul bumps off their
soul
ass.
Lines.
And it just always bad. Also, I think Peter Holloway is a terrible name for a faith healer. Like, it just doesn't have the pizzazz.
It is not very pizzazzy.
Yeah, it's just not very, like Righteous Gemstone-y or something. Like if I'm going to get my faith healed, like I want it to be something a little more, a little more oomph. Not Peter.
You want some Baby Billy?
Baby Billy, that you can get healed by Baby Billy.
Uncle Baby Billy. I will go.
Peter?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, very normal. Yeah. So they leave, and as soon as Dean and Cass leave, Ronnie goes outside and pulls out his cell phone. We know that's a bad thing. So Sam is doing the creepy thing, like you see on TV, but I've had it happen in real life, where a parent waits in a room for a kid that snuck out.
The fuck, they did that to you?
Oh, yeah, they did. It was terrifying. When you snuck out and you come back home, you turn the light, you think you're all sneaky, you turn the light on and they're there and you're like, shit, I'm busted. Yeah.
No, I never got caught that way. I did come home once and when I thought my dad was out of town and he was not, and he was sitting in the living room, and I almost walked in the back door, and then I saw him, and then I went and sat outside for like 2 hours before he went to bed and I could sneak in and go inside. Anyway, so,
so Claire's in Sam. Claire gets her motel, and Sam had found her there.
Yeah. And it's really scary. Don't do that. I'm surprised she didn't shoot him. So, because
she didn't have a gun yet.
As we lean into this, Claire has no hesitation. She just goes. Yeah. So, she's packing up, and Sam really likes her murder board.
He does. She did a good job on it. He's impressed, and about how she used their used her clues to put that together. And he's like trying to give her hot tips. Like, by the way, don't use your real name when you check in at the motel for future reference. And
these are Sam's like, we're gonna have to come up with a name for these, but Sam's like tips for young hunters, like he keeps like popping out, and none of them are, they're all like very shady. So like,
it gets worse.
Yeah, I know. And these are not things that you can do easily. As like it's very even, like I can tell you after this weekend, like it's really hard to buy anonymous gift cards. But I'm just saying that, like it's really hard to do identity theft these days. And so kids, don't take these tips from Sam. So you could try and use an alias, but they're going to want some sort of ID to go with that alias. So if you're going to go check into a motel, unless it's like you're going to find one that is like only by the hour and they take cash, but those are the ones that you don't want to stay in because you're going to get bed bugs and crabs. Yeah. So that's Liz's hunter tip number 1. Okay. So, all right. So, and then, they're talking about moms. And I think this is also really funny because it was just Mother's Day. But she's like, Sam tells her that he didn't get to tell off his mom because she died when he was a baby.
Mm-hmm. And she pauses and she apologizes to him. Like, I didn't know. And he's like, well, I actually got to know her later in life because, and we seem to get along, because in this line of work, death isn't always goodbye. And she looks confused, rightfully so.
Yep.
So,
and then Claire then also just starts arguing because she has teenage brain. Yeah. And in her teenage brain, her mom left her. And Sam is like, did you look at the postcards?
Or all of the diary notes that say I'll be home soon over and over again? Yeah. And he's like, this doesn't feel like leaving. And did you look at her credit card statements? And she's like, no, they wouldn't give them to me. He's like, cool. I know you want to like not hang out with us anymore, but let me show you how to hack the credit card company.
Yeah, so I'm going to call that forensic accounting. So Sam is teaching her how to do forensic accounting.
Forensic accounting, okay.
And also her hair is so pretty in the scene, but I bet it is annoying as fuck because it is split like right down the middle and then it's like feathered out over her eyes in this very beautiful way that but it just, I know it's annoying. Not as annoying as Sam's hair probably is to him right now, but it's still like probably just a little bit. All right, so we go from our forensic accounting class to the alley.
Yes. So we've got Ronnie pacing and his phone rings and they start having a conversation about how like, I don't think these guys are FBI. They're probably hunters. And then Peter's there because of course he is. And he's like, well, I wouldn't need a heads up here if you had just kept your fucking mouth shut. And then stops and boops him.
Well, he boops him and makes him blind again. And then he kills him. And that's fucked up. Like, before I kill you, I'm going to make you blind again. Yeah. But then also you couldn't see it coming. So, so I don't know. Ronnie. Bye, Ronnie. So bye, Ronnie. And so we go back to the motel. Like, see how easy fraud is, Claire. Now, let me show you how to set up fake credit cards that will also make life on the road a lot easier. Let's do some further identity fraud. This is great.
Let's make sure we really, really lock that felony in.
Yeah, right there. The good thing is like she just turned 18, so now she's an adult and can get full on.
She can get in real trouble for it.
That's great.
Like the ID, like checking in a motel, you might get away with like not getting in deep shit, but now you put a credit card fraud into the mix. So
you put a credit card fraud. Now he's putting probably identity theft in it as well, because that's most of the way the credit card fraud is. What I heard. So anyways, and then Claire is just like, talking about the money, and Sam's like, we don't hunt monsters for the cash. We do it to help people.
Mm-hmm. And she's confused though. She's like, that's it. like
you have a credit card. Like,
and he's like, and like, Sam's like, is that not enough? And
but there is a knock on the door.
Yeah. Cass and Dean are there, and they, are like, hey, we got a name from Ronnie that we need to research. So we know that now that Peter may have cured some people, but he was also feeding off people. So let's figure it out. And Castiel gives Claire a birthday gift.
And it is a grumpy cat that he bought at the Hot Topical.
Hot Topical.
And if you worked at the Hot Topic, you probably did need some Hot Topical. So Claire is unimpressed with Grumpy Cat. What? Then Sam gets an alert from the local PD, and they learn that Ronnie has been found dead. And Claire immediately thinks that Dean killed him.
Yeah, immediately goes, "What did you do to Dean?" And Dean's like, "I didn't lay a hand on him." And Cass is like, "Well, that might be an exaggeration." And he's like, "Well, I didn't kill him." And so Dean and Cass are going to suit up. And Claire's like, "Nope, I want to go." And Sam's like, "Well, I'm going to stay back and research. We got to find Holloway." So as everybody's leaving, Cass hangs back. And Sam tells him, or Sam saying, Cass tells him, I can't say it. Cass stays back for a second to tell Sam that Dean snapped and is getting worse.
There you go. You got it. Ooh. Yeah.
I don't know why it was so hard.
Yeah, that's a hard one. So we got cut from there to the alley behind the bar, and they are Agents Clapton and Paige. Come on, really? That one's not okay. And I think, how does the sheriff not know? Anyways, so then they cover for Claire by saying it's bring your daughter to work day at the bureau, which apparently is a thing.
Yeah. And Dean's explaining their interests by saying that the Vic was a person of interest in a missing persons case.
He is speaking the lingo, and he is told that it was a stab wound through and through, no signs of robbery.
I'm going to point out, and this is my random observation, Sheriff Coltrane is her name, by the way. Her pants are really good. Like, they are like perfect straight leg fitted. And I don't know if it's just the way, like, maybe she's just built really well, but they're really nice uniform cop pants. They would never be real uniform cop pants. That's my statement.
Yeah, not fair.
They look too good. I was like, damn, I want some good straight leg pants like that. Anyways. Yeah. So Dean notices, though, around the stab wound, there's some marks that are inexplicable.
And they're at the point of entry, and she thinks that maybe they're burn marks, but they have already managed to pull his cell phone records like while they're at this scene. Yeah. I mean, damn Tulsa, y'all are fast. And he made 2 calls prior to dying to the same number. They already called that number, and the line is dead and probably a burner. They also figured that out. God, Tulsa, Oklahoma,
on it,
on some shit,
on it. And so then she gets a call and steps away. And so
it's like, okay, one thing is like the thing that plot line on this one would it be believable? We opened his phone and the last 2 calls. Like, you didn't have to get a cell phone record, just open the phone.
Accurate. Yes. So like, that's not how that would work. They would just look at it.
You have to get a warrant for those things.
There's call history. You look at
there
that.
You go. Anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. So when she steps away, Cass is like, this looks like an angel blade, but wider. That's weird. And Claire's just like, best birthday ever.
So they get from that back to the hotel where Sam has gotten a lead on Peter. Dean thinks Ronnie reaching out to Peter is what got him killed. We have learned that Peter owns a farmhouse, and according to Amelia's receipts, she's been getting snacks at the Gas and Sips all around there.
That's sus. Yeah. So Claire's like, I want to go. And Cass is like, I can't let anything else happen to you. And Dean's like, nope. And so we have an argument, and they all agree that Dean can't go either because he's too on edge. So he is going to stay behind with Claire, and Sam and Castiel are going. Ooh. And they are instructed upon Cass' departure, no fighting, both of you.
And Dean starts drinking unrefrigerated beer. The fridge is right behind you, man. It's right behind you. Just turn around, put it in the fridge.
And newly 18-year-old Claire asks for one.
And surprisingly, he doesn't give her one.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked. So instead, he's like, we stay too cooped up. I'm going to lose our mind. I'm going to lose my mind. So, and Claire's got her comeback ready with, spoiler alert, you already have. So they leave.
Oh, teenagers. And baby, Cass wants to know if he should leave Claire alone, like Dean said. And Sam is like, what the fuck? What the fuck was Dean saying?
I'm like, absolutely not. She's family. I mean, not exactly, but she's close enough. You have history. And Cass like, so she's not better off on her own? You went off to college at your age. And Sam's like, no, this is good for both of you in the long run to be there for each other.
And she is still a child. Yes, I know Sam went to Stanford when he was 18, but that is going to college. Claire is off on her own.
Yeah, college is pseudo-supervised still.
Yeah.
Because if you're in a dorm, there are like kind of rules, kind of, sort of.
Yeah. But. So, yeah, but it's a good talk. And then we cut to putt-putt.
Yeah. So apparently Dean was moderately responsible and took Claire to play miniature golf.
That is an appropriate activity for you to do with an 18-year-old girl.
Yes,
well done, impressed. Mr. Winchester.
Yay! Applause for that. And then Dean gloats when he sinks the ball and does a Bill Murray Caddyshack impression, and she gives him a blank face back. And he is appalled. She manages to sink her ball. And
no. Why was he appalled?
Because she says she's not a fan.
And she hadn't seen Caddyshack.
And
I'm just really terrified that you haven't seen Caddyshack, and that's where this was going.
I've seen most of Caddyshack, but not straight from front to back. But I've seen it all.
I was really terrified. I was writing, so I was like, "Is Diana not seen Caddyshack?"
Okay. And I've seen like most of the comedies, if you haven't noticed. Like when you come around on those things, I've seen most of those. But she lands the ball and then she does a Happy Gilmore impression. So well played.
Yes,
well played. So Sam, in the meantime, Sam and Cass have pulled up to what looks like an abandoned farmhouse and barn, but they don't think it's actually abandoned. So back at Putt-Putt, Claire and Dean are talking, and she's like, so is this what you do? You just stay at cheap motels, you steal credit cards, and play mini golf?
Sounds like a Tuesday to me. And he's just like, yep. And we go from
like,
that.
He says they haven't played in a while. So that's the only thing he denies. He's like, but they help people. And he tries to explain that he's very sorry what happened to her dad, but tries to explain that he made a sacrifice and it wasn't meaningless. He gave up his vessel and Castiel saved the whole world. And she should think of her father as a hero. Which is tough. I mean, I'm not saying like he's completely wrong, and it's very kind that he's trying to give her this perspective, but I'm also going to say that she probably does not want to fucking hear that.
Probably not. And in between there, we did get a trunk shot, and Sam was getting a gun out of his trunk that I'm pretty sure was in his pants. But at least we got to see trunk. So Sam goes to the house. Cass is in the barn. Then on the putt-putt course, Claire then takes her shot and she gets the last hole and then goes through this very depressing thing about the whole eating your ball.
And she drops her putter in to demonstrate that that's what happens at the last hole on the course. And somehow this makes Dean have a revelation.
He has an epiphany.
He does. So they rush back to the motel so they can do research. And she is pissed because hunting means homework.
And luckily we had this book with us when we hit the road. Mm-hmm. And then he also reveals what his epiphany was. And this is where I'm like, what?
I don't know how it got there, but either way, it's that.
No. This is the what is okay. So it's an angel sword, right? And this is like, so they're saying that the mark on like the hilt, like of the sword, and that's why it's different, and those things burn. But like, didn't some angel blades have hilts?
But they were always smaller.
Were they always like a straight thing? Like I swear some of them had like a little sword. I don't know. But anyway, so he's like, it's a sword.
Yeah, it's an angel sword. It's different. It's older than the blade. And Claire's like, you got all that from a putter, which is funny. But at the farmhouse, Sam is wandering around in the house with a gun and an angel blade pulled while Castiel goes into the barn. Claire and Dean have discovered the Grigori, which are the Watcher Angels.
Was there a vampire? Okay, so Grigori.
Strigoi.
It's Strigoi. Is that what? Well,
Strigoi
Strigoi or witches, and then but in Twilight was there? I don't know. So Grigori really were watcher angels. It's really like a thing from Enoch. Blah 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 blah. They're one of the few named like angels. Like, but like in this, I don't know why I'm saying like 5,000 times, but it is.
I think it was in another story. You're reminding me. I'm sorry. I was trying to.
I know. It just kept.
I think that was. I was like. I got really confused. What was the Vampire Academy? Wasn't it in there? I don't know. Maybe not.
Well, Vampire Academy have Sampiers, and I don't know what they have. And Strigoi. So yeah, all of this.
One of our vampire lores.
One of the vampire books has a Grigori in it, or we're just getting super confused. Yeah. But Grigori Watcher angels are a real thing, like in whatever myth. Anyways, so some of the lore says they help people. Some that says they burn them. Now dig.
So as this is happening, Peter has spotted Sam inside of the farmhouse, and Castiel has found Amelia. He is trying to untie her, and as he's doing so, she is still having this vision of him. So she's having the visions of Jimmy coming back, and so she is fighting him, and this is so upsetting.
Yeah, that's
I don't like it.
Yeah, but she wakes up though, and then she knows it's Cass.
And she's like, I tried to find him because he took her husband. So, but Dean's trying to call Sam because he's figured this shit out. But the vibration distracts Sam instead, and he gets knocked out by Peter and doesn't answer the phone.
By the sword.
So, Dean is like, well, shit. Neither Sam nor Cass answered his phone. Why the fuck isn't Cass answering the phone? But
he's not good with phones.
So Claire's like, what's going on? How would an angel like that just like go rogue? Dean's like, I don't know, but here we go. And so he's packing guns and weapons, and he pauses for a second and gives Claire a revolver. Says, happy birthday. Don't shoot me.
Yep. Once again, guys, you don't need to give women small guns like that. Those actually have bigger kicks and are harder to shoot. I know you think it looks better for our small little hands, but please just give them regular size guns. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to the farmhouse. And Cass is booping Amelia, but it's not really working. And I don't know if it's not really working because of the Grigori or because Cass only has half his soul. I mean, like half of his grace.
Yeah, he's not full.
And he's got his, his ED wings.
Yeah, he's only got, they're a little sad. The multi-wings are not the same. So it's not working. And she is having the revelation that she's been dreaming this whole time about Jimmy and trying to put her family back together. But she wants to know, she can tell that, Castiel is not him and wants to make sure that Jimmy is in heaven. And he's like, look, because I promised to protect your family, and obviously I failed. But Claire is alive, and she's a strong-willed young woman, so there we go. And she's like, I just, I couldn't figure it out, and I ran off because I thought that if I could find Jimmy, I could make things right. So, in the farmhouse, Sam is tied to a fucking chair.
No, he's handcuffed. Well, at least he's handcuffed, which is slightly more of a secure way. And we learn that he has been Peter for the last 50 years. And before that, he was a Jenkins. And before that, he was a Miller. But his real name is Tamiel. And this is where my notes are going off about, like, what the fuck? Why is that a fucking vampire thing? But, so Tamiel... Tammy. We're just call him Tammy.
Tammy.
Picked Peter. So he chose Peter as his angry name. And I just
judging.
Yeah.
Maybe he wanted to be non-threatening. I don't know. But Sam's like, since when do angels feed on humans? And he's all like hoity, like, since the dawn of time, your souls are little slices of heaven and delicious meals. And it lasts for years and decades and it's fine. And Sam's like, you're a monster. Sorry.
No, I'm a gourmand.
And he's like, I make heaven a place on earth. And there were hundreds of us. I know, I thought of that too. No edits. And he's like, there were hundreds of us. We were, we were going to, protect, but no, they don't deserve it. So Sam is slowly pulling the nail out of his chair quietly in the background while he's distracting this monologue.
Yeah, monologues are good for that.
Yeah.
Then outside, Dean gives Claire's instructions.
Yeah, and they're sneaking. He's like, they're gonna go to the house, but he's like, if you have to shoot, aim for the chest, and it's not gonna kill an angel, but it might slow him down. So Castiel is checking on all these other people that are tied up, along with Amelia, which is
Do we
concerning.
Just leave those people there?
I don't think we ever addressed that.
I think they just left those people there.
They leave those people there. I hope not. We're always left with that impression.
I know they said like he will get them help, but they just left.
They just laughed. But they have to leave. Like, what are they going to explain why they were there? They probably leave and like dial like 911 and say, "Go save all these people that are tired."
Like they pull a Ronnie.
Yeah,
They pull a Ronnie.
They pull a Ronnie. So Claire gets there, and anyways, they're finding Amelia. That's the excitement here. And Amelia has to find out that she has been in this place for 2 years, which is really upsetting to find out you just like lost 2 years of your life, right? Yeah. Like she doesn't realize that. She's been like living in this weird dream state for like 2 years of her own personal hell. Ugh, that's fucked up. Anyways, so
that's a midterm election cycle.
Well, Amelia is apologizing to Claire, and Dean's telling him to stay there, and da-da-da-da-da.
Where's Sam?
But Dean and Cass are like, we need to find Sam. This is not okay. So they go to do that, and they find a fallen over chair, and right then they find Sam, luckily, and he has armed himself with a plank of wood.
Yep. And then they Grigori. Cass explains that they were all destroyed, and Sam's like, nope, they're not.
Apparently not. Wrong.
Your info is wrong, bro.
And so now they got to go find this motherfucker because he's somewhere on the property. Claire is trying to lead Amelia out of the barn. And as they do so, of course, Tammy's there. And he's like, you can't fix her. And which is really sad. And so Amelia shoots him repeatedly.
Claire does.
I'm sorry, Claire does. While Amelia's collapsing on the ground.
And this Claire doesn't even bother like saying anything quippy. She doesn't do a line. She just unloads in his chest. But sadly, that does not even slow him down. Mm-mm. And Amelia jumps in front of Claire and gets herself stabbed.
And as that happens, Castiel goes and tackles Tammy. Sam and Dean are fighting. There's a bunch of fighting going on. But Tammy's fucking strong.
He is. That Grigori strength. Yeah. And he almost has the upper hand until
Claire finds the blade and stabs him with it.
Yep. And then she runs back to Amelia, but Amelia is pretty much just gone.
Yeah, it's real sad. I don't like it. But then we get a scene of Amelia all cleaned up and healthy, going through that same beautiful, pristine front door. And Jimmy's there in his heaven, and I'm crying. Like, no, it's not Diana was crying, like, for real. I was, and he was waiting for her and wanted to know how Claire is.
And she grew up so beautiful and strong, just like her mom. And then there's more hugging. And this is one of those cases that they said sometimes in heaven, souls get to be together. And so these two souls are together in heaven. Aww. And then
fun, sweet. Things.
Yeah. So we go outside to the farmhouse and it's daylight. This is like where we just forget the other people that are in the barn. And Claire wants to know if she's going to a halfway house for wayward girls.
No, she's going to go live with fucking Jody Mills.
Yeah, she is.
Yay, Jody. And she's like, Sam, I really need to rehash this with you. You said something about death not always being like forever. And so he's kind of like, yeah, sometimes that's the case. Sometimes.
Yeah.
And then Dean says he's going to say his farewell, and he feels guilty about taking the gun back from her. So he gives her a present, and it's a DVD of Caddyshack and a book called The Enochian Myth.
Which he has somehow taken time to found wrapping paper and ribbons for.
He wrapped it.
He wrapped it. That's impressive. I'm surprised it's not just in a brown paper bag. That seems like what Dean would do.
It does. But she's not interested in homework. And he's like, you're a liar because I saw in your bag you stole the fucking angel sword. So you're doing something and trying to figure some shit out. So you better learn about it if you're going to do that.
Yeah, don't end up stabbing yourself with the sword you just stole.
And we also do see that the grumpy cat's in the back.
She has taken Grumpy Cat with her. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, look, man, if you're going down this path, it's not a long one. And then she's just like, you look pretty old.
Well, and, yeah. And she apologizes for setting him up and asks if he's going to be okay. And he's like, I don't know, but I'm going to keep fighting. Keep fighting.
Yeah, he will keep fighting and swinging until he has nothing left. It's really good. And then Claire asks him to keep an eye on Cass, and he tells her to do her homework before she does anything stupid. And then a cab shows up.
Mm-hmm. So he helps load her bags in, and Castiel tells her that he's there for her, and they hug. Oh. And Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain by Willie Nelson starts.
Yeah. Oh, Grandpa Willie is playing. And as she's in the back of the cab, Cass just wants someone to tell him she's going to be okay. And Sam says, of course. And so will you. And that's very, very sweet. And then the cab driver asks if she's going home or leaving home. And she's just going. And I really hope she's not taking this cab all the way to South Dakota.
Seems like a long cab ride.
It's a long cab from Oklahoma to South Dakota. So hopefully she's just going.
The cab driver's gonna be pissed when he realizes how long that.
It wasn't really long. You know, he gets it's pretty big fare.
Paid well. But still, yeah.
All right, so do we have people to talk about?
We do. We do have some cast here.
Casting couch. It's the casting couch. Were they on that show that time with that guy? La 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 la.
Amelia was played by Leisha Haley. Interestingly, she's also part of an electropop duo called Her. She's been in episodes of Boy Meets World, Ellen, Grey's Anatomy, CSI a couple times, and Constantine. She was Alice in the TV show The L Word. I mentioned it because she was in like 70 episodes, so she was a regular character. And she was Maureen in the recent series Bosch for about half a dozen times. So,
and she was also a former, I think she was in SPN before too.
She's in another episode, yeah.
Yeah.
Peter, aka Tammy, aka Tamiel, was played by Treva Etienne. Treva, Treva, to be clear. He was in episodes of Angel, Medium, and 24. He was an orderly in Eyes Wide Shut. He was Farimbi in Black Hawk Down, Kohler in Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, Ice Pick in Bad Boys 2, Arthur in Green Street Hooligans 2, Len in Terminator Salvation. He was in.
I'm just like there was a sequel to Green Street Hooligans.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Apparently there is. Yeah. Dingoen in Falling Skies series. That's like couple dozen episodes of that he was in, and then Jacques in Bosch, which is also a reoccurring character for about 9 episodes. So Ronnie was played by Russell Porter. He's been in episodes of X-Files, Almost Human, Arrows, iZombie, Batwoman, and So Help Me Todd. And he was Brad in Ernest Goes to School. Susie was played by Gina Chiarezzi. And she's been in episodes of L Word and Bates Motel. And then she was young Rosie in Look Who's Talking Now. Sheriff Coltrane was played by Ellen Iwosi, and she's in a couple episodes of Supernatural as well. She's been in episodes of Fringe, Van Helsing, iZombie, and Siren a few times. She was in the Elevator Lady in Fantastic Four. She was in 50 Shades Darker as a guest at the gallery, and she was a food and wine presenter in Always Be My Baby.
Cool. Yeah. That was a fun cast.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Sometimes I like it when it's like a compact cast like this, because I think that you know we got more time with all of them.
Yeah, it was a good ensemble, and we got to get into the characters, which is sometimes hard to do, and we have these drive-by episodes, right? But we also, we have characters. It's easier because we have Claire coming back, so we already have, but we don't have to do Claire's exposition, right? So we can the side characters can get a little more depth.
For sure.
So, was this anything like Angel Heart? I mean, maybe the identity theft. That is the only thing. Like, it was like they both stole identities.
And I guess I don't know. I was trying to did Tamiel I don't know. I was trying to pull something there and I got nothing.
Nope. I think he was just there's an angel and a heart, and I'm going to name this episode Angel Heart. And then somebody was like, oh, clearly it must be about this movie. And maybe Robbie Thompson likes the movie, but I don't think he was inspired by this. I mean, and to be fair, that movie has inspired a lot of things. It inspired Memento, and there's a bunch of people that decide it is they're one of their, the films that influence him as a director or a writer. There's a bunch of people who cite that weird ass movie.
I want to watch it and I don't.
It's really good to look at. There's a scene where he has to go through 100 chickens, and they use real animals for it. That was crazy. But it's very upsetting, and it's very, I mean, I'm not a prude, I'm not a prude. But it's, I do think that was very interesting as a point in time, just looking at what we get upset as a culture.
That's always different too.
The movie would still be controversial now, but I think it would just be different. And
different ways.
It'd be different ways that people would be upset about it for different reasons. But yeah, I don't think it. I think it was just an angel and a heart, and that was and Castiel.
Yeah, I think they were saying that angel. Castiel's an angel, and his heart.
Look at his angel heart.
Not the Angel Heart, the movie. No,
not the very very disturbing thing. And I really honest.
And this was a disturbing episode, and I still don't think that's it.
Yeah, and I will say, I recommend you go back and watch the old Lisa Bonet episodes in the 90s. I forgot, that was some nostalgic shit, and yeah, it was. Oh, but she was cool in the 80s. Not that she's not cool now, but still,
different time.
Yeah, it was a different world. Oh, did I do that? Okay, on that note. Cheers, jerk.
Cheers, bitch.
Devil's Trap Podcast is a Don't Get It production. Meow.
Devil's Trap Podcast is part of the Ship It Studios Podcast Network. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at Devil's Trap Podcast, Twitter at Devil's Trap Pod, or you can email us at devilstrap@devilstrappodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave reviews, and share with all your friends. We're at all your favorite podcast outlets and at devilstrappodcast.com. I'm Babe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.